Hi, my name is Will. I'm a grateful recovering addict, and I like being me here at the BME. All right. So first off, I'm corny as can be. Hey, you know what? I'm clean today. That's what matters. All right. So you know what? This is a big responsibility. Congratulations to everybody who picked up key tags, especially the white ones. You know, you guys are the most important people in the room. You never have to use again. You know, when I first came into the program, I didn't realize what just for today means, and you take it a day at a time until you get up to 18 months. And you know what? This process has been a beautiful thing. And I do this every time I do steps 1, 2, 3 in sponsorship. And this is not done to make you guys different or better than or anything. It's to get to know the room a little bit. Who here is on steps 1, 2, or 3? Raise your hand, please. Oh. Okay. Now, I want everybody to look around. For the people who didn't raise their hands, they've already gone through these steps. They can give you their perspective on it. So don't be afraid to talk to other fellow addicts, because that's what I needed to do. When I came into the program, I was agnostic, and I didn't realize what a higher power could be. Really, I came in with the most open-minded, demeanor to get to know what a higher power means to me, as well as a God of my understanding. Because for me, it's different. But so I was tasked with the foundation, which is, I can't, we can, and I'm going to let you. So that's the truth. Those are the 3 steps to me. Now I'm going to ask also, not to embarrass anybody, is there anybody here who does not have a sponsor? Please raise your hand. Okay, for everybody who raised your hand, it's not a problem at all. We have a IP up here that I suggest you guys grab. It tells you all about sponsorship and what it's all about. I'm going to touch there first because you can't go through the steps of Narcotics Anonymous without a sponsor. So a sponsor is somebody who guides you through the steps. It states as well that they're not our therapists, they're not our fathers or anything of the sort. But to be honest, I've come to find out through my sponsor that, there's a lot more than what is detailed in this, and that's a beautiful process. You get to know this person. But their responsibility is to help you, guide you through the steps. And, they've been through it already. They've done their part to qualify, I would say, to be a sponsor. And, for me, I had trust issues before I came into the program, and getting to know somebody and getting through the true nature of who I was and expressing that to this person and having them, who's already been through the minefield, guide me into what I found is freedom, which is the steps. I suggest you guys just read that and then start asking, when we say, is there any other announcements for the good of NA? If you're afraid, maybe you could say, I'm looking for a sponsor. That is an announcement good enough for NA, because that is very important. We suggest you get a sponsor right away. So we're going to start off with the first step. We admitted that we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives have become unmanageable. For me, I like to simplify things. Simplicity is literally the first word in our basic text. So I like to simplify it to the factor I break everything down per step. So for me, we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. So first it was surrender, is a spiritual principle where we have to turn it over to realize that I just joined the winning team. I quit drugs to become a productive member of society. It states in our literature that drugs were just a symptom. For me, currently, I thought that was the only problem until I came into the program and we thoroughly worked that step working guide. I suggest whoever did stand up to get it, keep coming back. Come Monday, we give away the step working guide. And young lady who got it, it's such a beautiful way of expressing what's more to us than addiction, because even though we become clean, there's things in our lives that can replace that. Even, for me, it could be Netflix. I can become unmanageable real quickly watching too many episodes and having to go to work the next day. Call of Duty, that for me, it's just me, but I can tell you one more game and it's 3:00 in the morning and I'm in trouble. But so we can act out, but as it says, it's an addiction. There's 2 forms of unmanageability. which is inward and outward. Now, outward is the most visible. You usually can see it. When your lives, you're starting to get evicted, your power gets shut off. That's more of the outward, but the inward is the isolation, the insecurities, where it's less presentable. Not a lot of people know. For us, the one thing, there's a section of these meetings called the burning desire. If you have a burning desire, that means if you wanted to hurt someone or someone else, please share about it. I find that highly important to the factor that for when you become unmanageable, sometimes you want to use. Sometimes you have these feelings of isolation. You don't want to speak out, and we can't help you if we don't know your problem. That's all we care about. We don't care about what you used, how much or how little you have. That matters none to us. What matters to us is your problem and how we can help. And so once we were able to speak out and approach that, that's when we're able to, realize that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So we're going to move on to the second step. For me, I also break this step down into, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So, I didn't just show up to Serenity by the Sea. I don't live here. I don't sleep in the back and wake up and come here. So I had to come. I came to Serenity to get, help. So for me, it's the same process, because like I said earlier, that I came in agnostic. So I didn't believe in a higher power or anything greater than me or greater than the drugs. But, my thinking got me here, and your thinking keeps me here. So what really happened for me is, I like to say it like this. So the first time I ever came to Serenity by the Sea, I had to use my GPS. I didn't know where it was. I actually passed it twice, to be honest. But in practice of coming here, I could probably drive here with my eyes closed. I don't suggest it, but I probably can make it here with my eyes closed. This is my home group. I started here 30 days clean, and, God willing, I have a little bit over 18 months. And this has been my home group ever since I started, Narcotics Anonymous. And, for me, having that process of me practicing coming here and speaking up and coming to believe, because for me, my first higher power was the moon. But that was actually on my second day clean. Somebody said, just pray to something. So I chose the moon, But further into recovery, I realized what was restoring me to sanity. Or, as I was coming to these meetings, I would come in here and I didn't have a sponsor for my first 100 days clean. Don't suggest it, completely, not at all. If I would have known the relationship that I was going to have with my sponsor, I would have got him day one, But you know what? You got to feel it out. You kind of want to have somebody that you can do a fifth step with, but that's later on, and we're not going to mix that with this message. So I would come to these meetings, and I did 90 meetings in 90 days, and it's a meeting a day for 90 days, because a fellow addict that I love to listen to his speaker tapes, he says, I'm that type of addict when you can't say 90 meetings in 90 days, because I'll do 90 meetings in 45 days and take the rest off. No, it's a meeting a day for 90 days. And the reason why we do that is a season changes, and so can we. We can build a new habit of coming to these meetings and speaking up. So for me, my first higher power, which was greater than the drugs, was this room. And you guys, where I would say I had a problem and I needed help, and there was a lot of people that mattered to me and didn't mind about the things that I shared about, and came up to me and said, hey, I was there too once, this is how I got through it. A fellow addict in this room once said too, if somebody tells you what to do, tell them to go fuck themselves. I'm glad my kids aren't in the room anymore. But if they suggest, because they've been through it, you might want to listen, And so I would come in here, I would share, and I would be restored a little bit. I've never left a meeting going, I'm even more worse off than I was. Never, not one time in my whole 18 months. So that's pretty good running record. So I come to these meetings. I came to believe that you guys could restore me to sanity in the literature, and it really worked out for me. So then we got the God step that a lot of people kind of are fearful of the word God. And once again, I am nothing without my predecessors. I am nothing. For those who know me, I write at every meeting. I have a whole book, and anything that I'm saying, you've probably heard from somebody else. Because, truth be told, I learned from them. I learned from the people who've walked this mile before me and have taught me how to live this way. Because, I'm a single father of 3. I have full custody. It is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. In the beginning, I thought quitting drugs was the hardest thing. No, try to raise 3 kids by yourself while your ex-wife is in active addiction, and only visit them twice a month, 2 days a month. Other than that, I have to be with them, and that's okay, because you know what? Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to show up, and having a God of my own understanding, because I got to, over time, build the God that I wanted, that was loving, caring, and most of all, greater than the drugs, greater than myself. Because for me, I had to chase my recovery like I chased my drugs. I don't know about you guys. I was that every day kind of guy, every other day kind of guy, whatever. So I have to go to meetings every day, every other day. I have to chase it the same way, because that's has to be greater than the version of life that I had, where I was constantly on the chase. So I need to constantly chase my recovery too, or else it becomes greater. And, finding a God of my understanding, and then learning how to turn my will over, my will in my life. Because when obviously my name's Will, so there's a lot of jokes we throw around, but God's will is better than Will's will any day. It happened to get me here. So, honestly, having that understanding, that I was at the wheel for a long time, and unfortunately I had, that looks good. That looks good. I'm hungry. I didn't have dinner. But, having that vehicle of destruction and then giving it over to a loving and caring God was a beautiful thing. A fellow addict taught me that I can create my God from scratch, and I did. I took whatever characteristics from your God that I found. Oh, your God's caring and doesn't judge. That's what I want, And then I built this God, and I actually got to teach my kids about the belief system as well, because being agnostic my entire life, after losing some family members, I thought, you know what, I didn't believe in heaven or hell. So I really kind of brought that onto my kids, and that's the same thing that happened with my active addiction. My kids were suffering because I didn't even realize how much I was distant. Even when I was in the same room as my kids, I can be distant in my mind. And showing up today, it's been a complete change. So I let my kids kind of have that idea to build their God. And my 10-year-old's God is a mermaid woman. I was like, absolutely, whatever you pray to, that you can turn your will over to, or whatever you feel that you can pray to, that you're comfortable with. And it's been working for her. So, we work these aspects in all of our affairs. And for me, turning my will over has been the most this is my favorite step as of to date. As of my sponsor, everybody says as of right now. Because it was my first spiritual awakening. I heard once that we usually have a spiritual awakening per step. But for me, that was my first spiritual awakening. I was in my own will trying to dictate what I thought somebody else's recovery should be, because they weren't as far along as me. So I felt that, there was anonymity went out the window, and that's, completely not the way that I should be treating recovery. But this person wanted to commit suicide, and I constantly kept telling this person, please Baker Act yourself, please call the suicide hotline. And I did it for about a week. And then finally, I had called that person in the morning and saying, how are you doing today? And they said, I'd be better if you put a bullet in my head. And I said, I can't do this anymore. So I hung up the phone immediately. And it was my first real prayer. Like, I feel like my first real prayer in recovery, I was 45 days clean. And I said, what do I do? And I got an answer, surprisingly. I sat with it. That's what the meditation part is later on in our steps was I sat with it for a minute. I did that pause and I had a thought in my head said, you've done enough. You've tried your very best. A person can't recover. You can't recover for somebody else. I can't get this 18 months for you. You're going to have to do it on your own. And we're going to guide you through it and we're going to help you through it. But I can't be the one to have the willingness. I can call you all day, but I can't make you answer. Same thing with God. God can call you all day, tell you the right thing and the wrong thing. You're the one who's going to have to do the legwork. You're the one who's going to have to answer. So a voice came in my head and said, you know what? You've done enough. Tell this person you love them, that you want the best for them, that you've tried your very best, and that you would, and then give the suggestions for the last time. And I gave that person the suggestions, and I'll tell you, that was me turning it over because I said I can't handle it anymore. And it's not that I didn't love this person. It's because I wasn't strong enough. I was powerless over this situation, and that when I turned it over, honestly, it was like a weight lifted because I didn't turn it over because I didn't want that person to get better. I turned it over because I couldn't do it anymore, and my higher power can take care of it. And lo and behold, it was taken care of. That person did call the suicide hotline and is doing better now and has over 18 months clean too. So following suggestions is huge for me. But with the steps, the steps are our path to freedom. As I said once when I was speaking, that, I was bleeding for so long. I had this, basically I had a cut that I kept trying to patch up with drugs or sex or food or anything like that. Little did I know I needed stitches, and it was about 12 of them. So honestly, working these steps has been one of the best experiences of my life. I get to know who I am. I got to find a higher power that worked for me. We don't push anybody's beliefs on anybody. You can believe in whatever you want. It's funny. We had a guy doing steps and traditions, which is on our Thursdays. And he said that somebody believed in a tree. And then a storm came through and knocked that tree down. And he said, what are you going to do now? So hopefully you have a stable, higher power. But, for me, it was hilarious. This guy, love him to death. But, I got to speak from the process of, and go back to sponsorship real fast. I used to think that I had the brightest fucking ideas in the room. I was so wrong, and if it wasn't for my sponsor to point it out, I don't know if I would have made it. There was a time that I had found information out, and I thought I was going to be, I thought my sponsor was going to be so proud of me. He was going to let me skip a step or two, or so I called him up and I said, man, hey, listen. I said, hey, listen, man, I'm right. I got the information. Guess what I'm about to do? And I explained it to him, and I just heard this long pause on the phone, and he said, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. I said, tell me. I thought I was right. So I said, tell me why. And the truth be told is because it would have affected my 3 kids. It would have got the person who I was going to argue with very upset. I was right, though, and he told me that. He said, but is that what you were looking for? Because I'll tell you, you're right, because you are. But you're not playing the tape through. And that's most of the time. Now I learned how to do that. I got to play the tape through. But, he was like, well, then she's going to start throwing things. Then your kids are going to go in the closet. But you're right, though. You're right. Is that what you really want? I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to a meeting. He's like, yeah, I'll see you there. So, for me, they say the sponsor is only to walk you through the steps, but my sponsor is so much more. And so many times I've heard the cliche thing, and I have to say it. If you think you don't have the best sponsor, then you got the wrong sponsor. Sponsorship is what is the heartbeat of NA. It's one addict helping another. And that therapeutic value I learned multiple times throughout my recovery is so much more rewarding and the best high I've ever had. Drugs cannot compare to what it feels like to help another person get through something. And, like for me, um, I finally have a cup that's so overflown that I can give back to Narcotics Anonymous. I can give back to my children. I can constantly work hard knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And if I ever feel like I got stuck, I have predecessors in this room that have gone through it. I'm not fucking unique. Anything that I've gone through, I might not be the message that you might necessarily needed to hear tonight, but keep coming around, you might hear your story. And that's what happened to me at my first meeting that I came to. I heard my story back, and, we all go through very similar things, and we stick together. We're never alone, NA. And, give yourself a break. These steps are in order for a reason. This is the foundation. The reason why we go through this step and establish a God of our understanding is because the next steps, that's the work. That's the work. And I realized that after starting my fourth step that I needed a higher power to guide me through that. Because looking back at your past, you get an understanding of why you did things, and you get these questions in that book that explain what our addiction really can manifest into. Because I was vaping I used the steps to quit vaping. I can use the steps to quit anything as long as I put the amount of work in. And to be honest, it's been 21 minutes. Give yourself a break. Get yourself a sponsorship pamphlet. And you know what? Ask fellow addicts how they work the step. Because you know what? They might have a perspective that you didn't see. And thank you for letting me share, guys.